In this video, we're taking a look at every single RC car in my collection. And stick around, because we've got some unique ones that you don't want to miss. So, let's get into it. Starting off small, we have this SCX-24 buggy. And while it's small, it's packed with features. It's got a ton of flex with Endura shocks, as well as a brushless motor for that low-down control. If you pair that with a virtual 2-speed transmission, you get one heck of a crawler. It also has RC all-wheel drive portal axles and bead locks. So overall, it's pretty capable. Here it is on my indoor crawler course, and just look at that low-down control. The droop on those shocks keeps all 4 tires on the ground most of the time, and that power lets you get up obstacles that even 1/10 trucks would struggle on. But if you're a good enough driver, you can get it through obstacles meant for smaller trucks. Next up, we've still got a small car, but it's a bit bigger. It's a Trax 4M Bronco, and it's no slouch on the trails either. It has some steel bead locks and a Traxxas licensed hardbody, as well as some brass upgrades that help keep the center of gravity low. Let's take a look inside. It also has Endura shocks, but they're more built for trails than rocks. It's got a powerful little servo, and a brushless motor just like the other ones. This is one of the first upgrades I would recommend for a mini truck, because it gives you so much control. The tires have a lot of grip on the rocks, and they feel great. It also has an upgraded servo mount, and a few other upgrades. Next up, we've got the meanest Granite Grom that you've ever seen. Now, on the outside, it looks pretty standard. It's got a body with some stickers and kind of dirty tires. But when you look inside, you see how quick and capable this truck really is. It has a Traxxas Velineum brushless motor and ESC, as well as tons of aluminum. This truck is a blast, but it was just too much for the little motor. We took this out bashing the other day, and the motor actually caught on fire. Next up, we're moving to 1/10 scale touring cars. This is an associated chassis covered by an FRS body. It's got a brushless motor and ESC, as well as an XP servo. The overall build is meant for drifting, with the back diff being locked, and hard road tires being installed. If you've ever driven a Tamiya TT02, you know they don't have too much grip. Speaking of which, next up is my first TT02. And it's seen better days. The specs are all good, but it's pretty dirty. It has a Trinity censored brushless motor and ESC, an EcoPower servo, and a FlySky remote. It also has some aluminum upgrades and drift tires. Leave a like if I should restore this. And next up, something that's almost identical to this one, is a Ford F-150 trail truck. It's got an Endura winch, beefy beadlock tires, which are mounted in the front and rear, and a Proline Traxxas slash body. I think this body fitment looks great, despite it not being for a crawler. This was my first crawler that I basically built from scratch, using parts I had around my shop. As you can see, it has a Titan 12 motor from a Traxxas, a Tamiya ESC, and the shocks from some generic basher I've never heard of. It also has an axial transmission and some steel drive shafts. This thing's fun to drive, I want to get it out more. Next up, we have an SCX-10 Bronco. This has steel bead locks, scale details, like these bungee cords, and frankly a too powerful light bar. Let's check out the inside. It's got an axial transmission, lots of brass, this thing weighs almost 7 pounds, and a rear-mounted ESC and receiver. The battery's mounted at the front to keep the weight ratio the same. Next up, we have the rare Viterra Twin Hammers buggy. This is a rock crawler that was discontinued in 2016 that I managed to get my hands on for just $100. It's got independent front suspension with inboard shocks, and a solid axle rear suspension. So it's basically a crawler. The body's super hard to take off, so let's just look through the windows. It's got a Titan 12 motor, a 2-speed transmission, and an Arrma ESC. Overall, this thing is super fun to drive, and it's one of my favorite RC cars. Moving on to 1/10 scale bashers, we have an Armor Granite 4x4 BLX. Except it isn't. It has a Velineum brushless system. And this thing absolutely rips. It doesn't have too many upgrades, but it's still super fun to drive. Next up in the same family, we've got an Armor Granite, and this thing needs some finishing touches, like tires and a body. It has a Spectrum ESC and motor, a 4-wheel drive system, and a blue heatsink that does absolutely nothing. Next up is its predecessor, the Arrma Vortex 2-wheel drive. They actually just brought this back, but this is the 2006 version. I've been wanting to turn this into a sand car, so leave a comment if you think I should do that. It's the perfect candidate. With rear-wheel drive and an inside-mounted battery, this thing would be king of the beach. And overall, I think it looks pretty good. Next up is my first RC car, a Traxxas Rustler VXL. Well, technically it's Titan, but basically the same thing. It's got slash tires, big bore shocks, an upgraded servo, a Velineum brushless system, and a whole lot more. It needs to be cleaned up, but overall this thing rips. Speaking of which, up next is a Traxxas Bandit, which was built for, frankly, ridiculous speeds. It's the brush version with an upgraded power system, and some terrible rear tires. It has Arrma shocks in the rear, which I think look great, and extended rear A-arms and axles. And last, but certainly not least, an Arrma Kraton 6S. This thing is 1/8 scale, goes 60 miles an hour, and weighs almost 11 pounds. It takes two 3S batteries, and has a BLX system. None of that Spektrum stuff. It also needs a tune-up, but it's not too bad, just like a receiver and stuff. It has the space for a normal 6S battery, but I run two 3Ss because I can use those in other cars. It also has some hot racing upgrades, Arrma Copperhead tires, and absolutely massive shocks. I almost traded this for a Baja Ray and a Hammer Ray, but I decided not to. This thing's just too much fun. When you pair it with an amazing looking green and purple Proline body, it just brings the whole thing together and looks like the absolute beast it is. So that's it, my full collection. Thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all so much for 1,000 subscribers. In the future, I might be transitioning to more long-form videos, but I'll still keep posting some shorts. Alright, see y'all next time. Thanks for watching.